What's up, Tommy?
What's going on?
Hey, Tommy.
How are you?
Yeah. What's up, man?
Nada.
Welcome to episode 7.
Are we live?
We are live.
Wait, you gotta
Welcome.
let us know, man. You've been saying something really inappropriate.
Tactical Tequila
That's
Podcast.
That's a good thing for editing.
Oh, well, there's that. What's going on, man? How you feel?
Numero siete.
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Good. So tonight we are drinking G4 Blanco. Do you have the same in your glass?
I do. I actually have 2 glasses for a particular reason. I have a lot. Let me just grab them. I have lot 30 from December, and I have lot 18 from February. So there's a significant difference between the 2 of those. So doing a little side by side for a reason.
Nice.
So what's the difference between the 2?
So since lot 23, in the middle of last year, Felipe Camarena, the master distiller of G4, decided to switch up the formulation a little bit. And anything made post lot 23, he ferments 10% in wood fermentation tanks.
I read that.
So,
actually, I read that today.
Actually,
Yeah, I think Tequila Matchmaker
of all
email out
days,
today that talking about.
Of all days, Tequila Matchmaker decides to post that today. So I thought how fitting that they posted that today.
Nice.
Yeah, we had discussed talking about it.
And we actually have lot 23 as well.
Oh, very good. So that's the first lot of the new formulation.
Very nice.
And so will they not make any of the old one again? Or is this just the way it is now?
So that's the way.
It is now.
Ironically enough, I heard a story through the rumor mill. Not so much the rumor mill. Actually, I heard it from Felipe's mouth himself. He was actually out here in Las Vegas back in June of last year to receive an award for a tequila that he makes there at El Pendio. It's actually not the G4 brand, but it's Primo. And Primo's made very similarly to G4's made now. So when he was out here drinking his Primo, he's like, you know what? I'm really enjoying how this is tasting. Let me kind of tinker with some stuff with the G4 brand. So that's the birth of the new formulation for G4.
Well, can I just give a shout out right now? If you've never drank a quality tequila or you just don't know, do me a favor, drive to a liquor store, go buy a bottle of Primo.
Yep.
It is one of the best tequilas I have ever had in my entire life. We were talking about it today. We were going to grab a bottle. I don't think you can find it.
I couldn't find it the first place. I'll find it next time.
But big fail.
But make some calls. If you're in the Las Vegas area, check out Lee's Liquor, check out Total Wine. You know, they should have it or at least call and find out. I'm telling you right now, phenomenal tequila. I cannot wait for you to have it.
So what you're saying is this right here is different than the ones we've had before, or have we had this lot 23 before?
I don't think I've had
it. I don't think so.
All right. Well, then it's just as good. I would have been upset if it wasn't as good as the G4 that I've had up to this point.
I think it's particularly
just as good, if not better.
So speaking of that, Tommy, we'll jump right into it. Speaking of the G4, you want to give us a little discussion on what you've got coming up next weekend?
Absolutely. So March 9th is the launch event for the official kickoff for the Las Vegas Tequila Club. G4 is partnering with us for that launch event, so that's going to be pretty awesome. It's going to be held at Mysterio, downtown Las Vegas in the Arts District. Awesome little agave spirits bar. Ran by a really cool guy. His name's Javi. He's from Mexico City area originally. But so G4 just happened to be that one of the best brands in the world said yes to partnering with the Las Vegas Tequila Club, and 60 so of us are lucky enough to be a part of that in 2 weeks or a week and a half.
And that's amazing. So, like, how did you get everything set up, and how did Felipe come to agree to participate in it?
So interesting enough, at that when Felipe was out in June, I met him and his son Alan, which is Alan's. Him and his brother are the fourth generation. That's where G4 comes from. They were out here for that award, and they happened to be doing a bottle signing at one of the local bottle shops here in town, Corey's here in Henderson. And I said, "Well, I've got to go. G4 Blanco is my favorite Highlands Blanco." So went out there, just started a relationship basically with him, met him there, and then actually went out in November again and met him there again. But the way it really came to fruition is one of the importers for G4, Jeff Ernst. He's from Chicago, Illinois, but he has decided to make Las Vegas his permanent winter home, and this is his first year out here. So,
It'd be my permanent home, folks from Chicago.
right?
permanent home.
So we've met a few times and struck up a conversation a few times about, I wanted to start the club, and he goes, I really like what I'm hearing. The agave community is awesome, and he said, if you ever need any help getting going, let me know. So I said, well, I absolutely need help, and I said, would you be interested in having G4 be part of our launch? And
that's wonderful.
So yeah, there we go. That's how it all started.
I'm really looking forward to it. I have a wedding on the other side of the country that weekend that I am cutting short. I told my cousin that I would be leaving halfway through, and he said, "Why?" I said, "G4. That's why." I've known you your whole life, and I love you, but we're talking G4 here. So,
Tommy, just really quick, you're a little pixelated.
Okay.
The event will be at Listerio.
Yep.
In the Arts District here in Las Vegas. Correct.
Correct. That is correct. March 9th. It's sold out. Unfortunately, I wish we had more room, but it is sold out. But it's
right. So the event's sold out. Shout out to Listerio, and if you're in Las Vegas, please check this bar out. It's down in the Arts District, so think like Charleston, Maine area.
Yep.
Not Fremont East, but Charleston, Maine, a little bit south of that.
Correct.
And so shout out to Listerio here in Las Vegas.
Correct.
Awesome.
I've never been there. You been there, Ash?
I have not been there. We met Tommy, a couple Sundays ago?
Yes.
And originally it was going to be Listerio, and then we ended up Matt here called an audible, and we did the local, which is a great little wine bar in the district. And I had to run off to a Tool concert.
Actually, that was Jay's audible.
Oh, Jay called the audible.
I call the audible because I drive 4 hours round trip to get up here once a week. So I think every now and then you guys can come to Henderson.
Hey, I don't mind.
It does not take that
long there. It does.
Friendly North Las Vegas, where I come heavily armed.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Speaking of heavily armed, one of the things that we were talking about throughout the week, talking about heavily armed, talking about all those things, was the sheriff just did the state of the department, talking about on the safety side.
Here in Vegas.
Here in Vegas, yeah. The sheriff did, Mayhill. What did you think about it, and kind of what's your take on where we are as a community right now, and where we were, where we've come in the last year? Ash first, and then we'll ask Tommy, as a non-law enforcement guy, what his take on the feeling of the community is right now.
Sure. So, when I saw Tommy, I thought he was a cop. He looks like
he does. Smells like
he's a
one.
Sexy, tall, white, bearded. But no, it's interesting. I had a really nice conversation with Sheriff Kevin McMahill. I want to say 6 days ago, referenced my job as a private investigator here in town. And anyways, and we had mentioned in last week's episode, I think it was last week's, about the safeguarding of the Super Bowl, the F1 events, the kind of the bookend events that happened, and then this just insanity that happened over the end of the year, beginning of the new year. Death of 2 troopers, 5 homeless people targeted for murder. We had the UNLV shooting. So this is the thing with crime numbers, and I'll speak very frankly here. The crime numbers, the good news is here in Vegas, the raw data shows violent crime is down. The problem with that is this: if you're the victim of violent crime, you don't want to hear about crime numbers are down.
You don't care, and that's one of the things that McMahon said.
Yeah,
actually.
And so, and I know 100% that the sheriff understands that, and that his people under him who are implementing his vision for Las Vegas law enforcement and safety. And I think for the most part, cops understand that too. So we can talk about numbers all you want. We can say, oh, sexual assaults are down, a huge amount. Great. If you're still a woman jogging in the park, you're still nervous, so
Yeah.
again, lots of work to be done. And again, you as a citizen, what can you do to safeguard your property, your people, your family, things that you need to think about, that situational awareness, which is a whole nother conversation to be had. But, like a homicide rate is down, and we have one of the highest clearance rates in the country still.
92%, I think they called it.
It's
something crazy like that.
Yes, and literally, so when around the country, when homicide units are struggling to really maintain a high closure rate, the feds, the people will come in, they'll say, go to Vegas, watch what Las Vegas Metro Police are doing. They will literally come out here and try to replicate our system.
Yeah.
They brought in retired homicide detectives. They're working cold cases. They've got grants for DNA. DNA testing is extremely expensive, and it can be kind of cumbersome in time and a little bit of a bureaucratic process.
Absolutely.
So again, great numbers, but if you are a citizen in Las Vegas and you watch the news every night, you still think, wait a minute, I saw some dude stealing iPhones at the iPhone store.
Yeah.
It looks bad. It's the media, the hype of the media. So, good news is the numbers are down. The bad news is if you're the victim of the crime, you still want a cop to show up to your house within a reasonable amount of time. You want it investigated. You want a call from the detective. You want case closure. And a lot of times those are difficult without leads, evidence, a suspect name, fingerprints, DNA, all those things. So whatever you can do in your personal life, write your serial numbers of all your guns down.
Yeah.
Know the license plate of your car. You'd be amazed how many people call up. If someone just drove away from 7-Eleven, left my car running. Don't leave your car running, and then know the license plate of your car. Don't leave your Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton handbag inside of your Porsche and go into the Lifetime Fitness and then come out and find your car smashed out with all your stuff gone.
Yeah, that's your fault.
Go buy. A friend of mine, my car just got stolen. So you didn't buy a $35 AirTag and throw it in the glove compartment of your car?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And that's one of the things about the state of the department that I do like is you've got the stats.
Yes.
That say things are dropping. And you've got the media that tends to make us feel like things are always getting worse.
If it leads.
Yes. And so in the situation, it kind of allows, and the sheriff did a good job of saying, this is the good, this is where we had some failures,
right,
and this is where we need to get better.
Right.
It's good to have those nice, open, honest conversations because you're not getting that in the media.
No.
And I tell people all the time that, you don't want to take too much, and you can tell me how you feel about this. I always tell people that say, oh, I have a friend that's a cop that told me this and said, you don't necessarily want to always take your take on crime and violence from a cop.
Right.
Because no one calls 911 to the house to say, hey, I had a great day at work and my wife made the best dinner and the kids are being quiet. I just want to let you know. They're only going to the bad shit.
Right.
And so all they see is the bad shit.
Yeah.
And that has to affect your overall view of the things that are going on. So when you have a situation like this where it talks about the bad stuff and the good stuff, it gives people an opportunity to get a clearer message. And Tommy, as someone who doesn't work and doesn't live in the numbers and doesn't see both sides, as far as your safety, did you feel more safe this year than you did previously coming in this area?
That's an interesting question. Do I feel more safe in this previous year than the year prior? I'll be honest with you. I kind of do a lot of self-preparedness work in that area, so I guess I probably feel the same. When it comes to public safety aspect, I probably feel just as safe as I did the previous year. No more, no less. It could also be where I live. It could be where I work. But it also, I think a lot has to do with probably my own self-preparedness too. So, but yeah, I don't feel like I'm going to be victimized any more or any less than I would previous years. And I feel very safe under the law enforcement that is protecting us in the area where I live, which is Henderson. So that might be different in other regions of the valley, but I'm not sure. I don't live in those spots, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I guess that's my what would you what does Joe what do you think your average Henderson upper middle class Las Vegas neighborhood resident, like what do they think as far as, and I think you kind of said it, you feel like the police are doing a pretty good job. What's working and what do you think could be better?
So in Henderson, I think I think what could be better in Henderson, to be honest with you, is the public outreach. I think there is some complacency probably on the citizen side, and also maybe on the law enforcement side, that everything's running smoothly, so therefore we don't need that public outreach or maybe public interaction. I know they do the annual thing in downtown that they do every year, even here in Henderson. But it's probably when we're Henderson's ranked the second safest city in the United States. So
And I was just going to say that,
so
for anyone in Henderson to have that fear is media driven because, in reality, you can't get much safer.
no.
You can't get much safer.
Yep. And so that right there tells you a lot, I guess, about do I feel safe in Henderson? Yes. I feel safe in Las Vegas for the most part too, but I also realize that Las Vegas is a whole different animal, a whole different animal than any other city in the nation too. So it has its own set of circumstances, and it's a very transient city, even here in Henderson. So
Very true.
Well, what do you, as the average citizen, what do you do to self prepare?
Well, you guys talked about self-awareness. Self-awareness is key, but I do have to confess, I was raised by law enforcement officers, so I guess I have a little bit of a advantage or disadvantage when it comes to my perspective on law enforcement. There's certainly a little bit of a complacency on my part but yeah, I was just raised to be very self-aware. I've done drills with my own children at Target or any grocery store when they were young. Well, I would stop them and, unannounced. We'd be in the middle of the store and I'd tell them there's an active shooter at the front of the store. What are you going to do? And we'd run through that drill.
Wait, what? Why you scare your kids to death, Tommy?
Unfortunately, it's the world we live in. So
it's true.
I don't know, man.
No, I agree.
I don't know.
But I'll tell you,
I agree with Tommy.
You know what? I will say this, talking about scaring your kids. When my kids were little,
we used to play murder your children.
Oh my God.
So it was a park next to our little community over in Henderson. And when the kids were little, I would take them to the library and then the park on the way home every day. We go to the park, it's dark, it's nighttime, and they were little, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we would say, all right, walk home from here and I'll hide along the way and scare you to death. And they thought it was the greatest game ever. I would scare them to death every single day.
You told this story. Let me paint a picture for the listeners. We used to work on the 3rd floor of Metro headquarters in basically a giant bay. And you told this story one day in the bay of don't get murdered. You called it "Don't Get Murdered by Dad."
Yep, every day.
And JB and Kennedy would have to sneak away home, take a secondary, tertiary route, and then you would jump out and get them. And I thought to myself, I have failed every aspect of fatherhood because I never played "Don't Get Murdered by Dad."
The greatest thing I ever did during those games was sometimes I would run all the way home and hide under their bed.
Right.
And they would get home, and you could hear them in the house shaking because they thought they made it, but they knew they didn't make it. And they would be scared. I don't know. They're probably traumatized now. I can't imagine what their therapists say.
It's a good trauma.
That's a good trauma.
I agree with you, Tommy. I've had the same conversation with my kids. When they were younger, I'm in traffic. I had a code word that meant get down in the car, keep your heads covered, keep your heads down, because shit was about to break bad. Yeah. I would rather give a little inoculation against the dangerous, horrific disease than just go out there with nothing on board. So it's true. It's unfortunate we have to have conversations with our kids today. But if you're a parent in America in 2024, you need to have a level of situational awareness.
That's fair.
And you need to talk to your kids about safety.
I'm
not saying stranger danger. I'm not saying hover over every need or helicopter parent. No. You have to let them experience a little bit. kids who fall down and start crying, and moms are immediately there to pick them up. Let them get up. Like, hey, shake it off, you know.
Yeah.
But you do have to have a conversation about the insanity of the world that we live in. And in all reality, you're the numbers, the odds are like nothing will ever happen, but you still have to have it. We still, you know, I carried a firearm. I've carried a firearm every day of my life for 25 years. I never had to pull the trigger one time, thank God. I still trained with it. I still practiced with it. I still had a situational awareness. And I still thought about scenarios like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? How would I respond if this guy comes out? You know, these things that happen, again, it's like a fire extinguisher. You have one in your room. You hope you never have to use it, but you know how to pull the pin, point it at the fire, press the thing until all the white comes out and all the smoke is gone.
What about you, man? You ever scared the shit out of Xavier?
So
You can start.
So for me, even with my oldest, Jake, the things like having always been in the protection realm, like I'm always that arm length away. Like it doesn't matter where they've been, you know, other than when my oldest son got older and he was going out on his own and stuff, then, you know, it was a different story. But as they were younger, I was never more than an arm reach away when
Just to be there.
yeah.
That's
And
good.
I think that's just the protector side in me, you know, having the training and then doing all that. So
Yeah, it helps. And you know, Tommy, you guys talk about that self, um, um, you know, getting yourself ready. And there's some populations that can't. You know, we were talking earlier about when I was a negotiator, um, um, we would negotiate people that were virtually kidnapped. They were phone call is made. It's usually to the elderly. It scares them. The person leads them to believe that they are kidnapped when in fact they aren't. And I've sat in many people's houses, many a nights, sleeping on their couches because they got a call from a family member who was somewhere that thought they were being kidnapped and they were being held for ransom. Some of those people you can't tell. You can't. There's still people to this day I can't get to realize that they were never really kidnapped. It was just that feeling of fear that they had because a person on the phone said, "If you open that door, I'll kill you. If you go out there, I'll kill you." You know, call such and such and tell her to go to the bank and wire me the money. And time after time after time, it wasn't virtual. And we talked about our parents and our sisters and our relatives that put themselves in these situations where they're just setting themselves up to be robbed, to be, you know, in danger, to become victims of crime. And I don't think we rely so much on the police to keep us safe. It almost prevents us from doing the things that we need to do, like Tommy's saying, to keep ourselves safe.
Yeah, there's definitely a call for you know, vigilance, and but there's also, you can take it to the extreme and be hyper vigilant, and then live in a constant state of, I guess, over preparedness, kind of, and just become a complete lunatic. And
Well, this is America.
yeah,
Yeah, this is America. We're not going to do it the easy route. We're going to go too far,
yep,
or we're not go far enough.
yep.
We're not going to go the appropriate length.
And that's what vigilantism comes in too. So that can be the whole other ball game. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
so getting back to tequila,
Talking tequila.
we do get a few new listeners. We do have some veteran listeners as well. Can you explain a little bit about the process as far as how tequila's made? Different brands that you would suggest to newcomers?
yep. So tequila is actually rather simple but complicated at the same time. So obviously tequila, you know, the stuff that we get in our typical bottles in the store, the good stuff or the real stuff is made with 100% blue Weber agave. You guys have talked about this on your show before too, but blue Weber agave is a certain type of species of agave. And there's, you know, 200 something different species of agave, and 24 of those can be made, or 30 or so, or can be made into mezcals, but only one agave can be made into tequila. And the average age of agave to reach maturity is anywhere from 6 to 8 years um, to be harvested. So wine, it's 1 year and it's harvested, whereas tequila, it's 6 to 8 years and it's harvested. So it's a lot slower growing process. But that's where the difference is once it's harvested, tequila is actually made faster than wine because wine is usually aged in barrels, typically. So Blanco, no aging, or at least no more than 2 months aging, is a Blanco. It's the white tequila or the silver tequila that everyone's familiar with. There's a lot of us that used to drink mixto back in the day, which could have a percentage of sugarcane in it. And there's only maybe 1 or 2 mixtos on the market that you should drink, even if you drink those. But it's a fermented. The agave is fermented, and then from there it's distilled, just like any other distillate. And it's usually distilled and proofed down to about 80, which is 40% alcohol. Some of us like to drink it a little hotter than that at 45 to 50%, typically called still strength, which is what my preference is, but it's definitely needs to be respected when it gets, I mean, it needs to be respected at 40%, but when it reaches those
He's
higher
very
numbers,
respected.
it really needs to be respected. So it can stir trouble.
Tell me, what happens if it's harvested? You said 6 to 8 years. What happens if you harvest it too soon?
If you harvest
You
it too
know,
soon, then you're not getting enough sugar content out of your agave. And then there's companies that do harvest agave sooner to make more money because they can't wait for the agave to be grown. They need to add additives to it, artificial sweeteners, to sweeten it, agave syrups or agave flavoring to make it taste more like agave. And then, of course, glycerin for that mouthfeel or also the sweetness of it. So the problem is there's a lot of brands that actually use really young agave and kind of depletes the soil and depletes the terroir, the land where it's from, and then they use additives to make it taste like tequila. But in the end, they're really not fooling too many people at least know that can decipher additives. A lot of people think what they're drinking is tequila, and what they're really liking, the smoothness of it, is actually the additives that have been added to their favorite tequila. So once you taste the difference between additive free and an additive laden tequila, it's night and day difference. So yeah, that's the problem with young agave is you're depleting the land and you're throwing all kinds of additives in your product to make it taste like tequila. So
Couldn't agree more.
yeah.
So it's very interesting. I know you mentioned mixto.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
what is mixto?
Mixto is 51% blue weber agave and then a cane sugar distillation. So the lowest level El Tequilaño that you love is a mixto. And I don't know what's the other.
Don't
maybe
talk
one.
shit
Oh
about
no! It's phenomenal. So like there is, but that's the problem. There is literally, like Tommy said, there's 1 or 2, and I just only know of El Tequilaño.
Yeah.
Their low end price tequila is a mixto. It's phenomenal. It's additive free, but again, they're still mixing. They're still using a sugar cane. That's where the fancy bottle that you like, that's got the bedazzling on it. That's the one that's a step up, where it's 100% blue weber agave. It's not a mixto. So again,
are they adding? You said they're adding.
They're not adding. They're distilling between blue weber agave and a cane, a specific cane.
It's sugar cane.
that
It's
grows.
the same sugar cane that they're using for Coca-Cola in Jalisco. I mean, you'll drive through fields and fields of agave, but what you'll see more than even agave is you'll see like the tall stalks that are growing. Those are actually the sugarcane fields, mainly for all the Coca-Cola, Squirt, and all the soda products in Mexico. Mexico is one of the biggest growers of sugarcane in the world. So that's mainly what you see in Mexico is the sugarcane. So it's literally sugarcane.
So what's the difference between that and the G4, Ash? Between the G4, one I like.
Well, G4 is just 100% blue weber agave. So under Mexican law, you can call it tequila, but it's a mixto. Like you're using the sugar cane to supplement as a booster to the agave.
Got it.
The second this is why when you go to buy a bottle of tequila, if you look at the price and you say, "Oh, it's only $22.99," this is a problem. This is a big red flag. If you're buying, especially a 750 milliliter or a full 1 liter bottle, how do they make their money? Because again, yes, agave prices have plummeted, but at one point, agave prices were through the roof. And by the time they distill it, pay their people, put it in a bottle, put a label on it, ship it to a distributor here in the United States. The cheapest they could sell a really quality tequila, this was in 2021, 2022, was like 40 bucks, 35 to 40 bucks. So I don't even look at the price. Now, if it's Arete, it's a small bottle. If it's Cimarron, they own the agave fields. They were able to pass the cost savings on to us. But for the most part, the vast majority of distillers of tequila were having to buy blue rubber agave from growers, and then those prices skyrocketed, and now they're coming back down, or they've actually plummeted now.
Yeah, I read the article that they
Yes.
plummeted recently.
Yes, they're coming down.
Now, why are they plummeting when the popularity of tequila is rising? It makes no sense that the popularity, more people are drinking it, but the cost of the product to make is plummeting.
So
Well, I mean, maybe Tommy.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
with the last few years, the agave prices have skyrocketed, even to the point where Espadin agave, which is typically used in mezcal, which is one of the fastest growing agaves, that people were even sneaking Espadin agave into like distilleries for tequila, which is illegal, but that was done in cover of night. But so the reason why it's one of the reasons why is because it's very cyclical product, but also the money was so high in agave the last 5 years, everyone started planting agave 5 years ago, and now everything's matured to where it's being harvested. And now there's an overabundance of agave just because of the cost, supply and demand. That demand created everyone starting planting agave, and now there's so much of it that some of the stuff that's not good enough for tequila distillation, they're feeding to their cattle.
So is it about the time, about 5 years ago, wasn't that about the time a certain celebrity sold a certain celebrity tequila at a record,
At a certain $1 billion price tag?
$1 billion price tag?
Yeah. That's
And all of
about
a sudden everyone was
that's it. But and there's been a natural progression of lows and valleys and highs in the price for decades. So it's kind of been the natural course for agave, which is kind of, you would think that over time they'd be able to figure that out, but it's probably like just anything else. But it's a commodity.
But you're right with how long it takes to harvest it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, it's just like a presidency.
What do
You don't see the effects of a presidency sometimes until 4 years later after they're already gone. Same thing with harvesting agave.
What do you think that this price plummet means for the tequila market in the next coming year to two?
Nothing. I don't think there's going to be any price change in our tequila, unfortunately. Which I think that's all the price savings is going to be to the owners or the distillers, which is fine. I mean, that's capitalism. So I don't think we'll see a difference.
So it's not like oil where the price of gas goes up and down
Right.
as the barrel goes up and down. We're not that lucky.
Yeah, I wish.
We're not that lucky.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see much of a price difference in our. In fact, I think it's actually going to go up. I've heard stories where some of the stuff that was the most economical but really good was actually raising their prices. They're using the price to dictate quality, which is something bad tequila's been doing for a while.
And I would rather see the prices stay elevated, but the quality maintained.
Absolutely.
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 So, Tommy, you're on a plane and wing shears off and it crash lands on a deserted island, and there's only one couple cases in the entire cargo hold of tequila. You're going to be stuck there for a minute. The sat phone needs the solar charge. The MREs are plentiful. There's a fresh spring with completely clean water, and the island's rife with deer, and you got all the meat and good food you need. But you're going to be stuck there a minute, and you only have one tequila to pick. What tequila are you picking?
Well, I can guarantee it's going to be a Blanco, an unaged tequila, because I can age it myself if I need to in some kind of bamboo. Would be interesting bamboo tequila. That probably doesn't be great. It's definitely going to be Blanco, and it's going to be one of two Blancos.
You killed deer. He's trying to age tequila. Well played.
I can make my own aged agave spirit. It's going to be one of two Blancos. It's going to be either. It's going to. Well, I'll just keep them both at 40% just to keep it easy. It's going to be either the G4 Blanco, which is my favorite Highlands Blanco, or it's going to be the Casco Wing Tayona Blanco. which is a valley.
Also,
So yeah.
Now, I've heard you a couple times, Tommy. I've heard you a couple times talk about the Highlands
Yep.
versus the Valley. What else comes from the Highlands that you recommend?
Ocho.
So
Tequila.
I basically know the difference between stuff by the railroad tracks and the stuff that's not by the railroad
Okay.
tracks. You know that kind of.
So everything from the Highlands, I would have to say. So there's G4 obviously in the Highlands. There's also Ocho, which is the maker of Ocho. Happens to be the brother of the maker of G4. Carlos Camarena makes Ocho. El Tesoro is made in the Highlands.
Excellent.
Tapatio, which is outstanding, one of the long OGs in the tequila market, is made in the Highlands.
shout out to Tio. She do amazing work there.
Yeah, so those are some of the really OGs in that area. Trying to think about Campo Azul is 1940. Campo Azul is made in the Highlands. When you say Campo Azul, there's a distinction that needs to be made. There's the 1940 Campo Azul, and there's just Campo Azul brand. I'm specifically talking of the Campo Azul 1940. What else is in the Highlands? That there's so many that I'm missing, but there's a number of brands that Felipe at El Pendio make also. Valons, Primo, we discussed. Don Vicente. There's a couple that Felipe makes as well, but there's a smaller handful of Highland tequila distributors as opposed to those down in the valley, which we may be more familiar with some of those names down there.
Now, where is that the Highlands in location of where we were?
So the Highlands was like Arandas, east of Guadalajara.
Got it.
Northeast type.
And I find, and Tommy, tell me if you think I'm wrong. I find that the Highlands tequila are a little bit it has a little bit more sweeter flavor, as are the Lowlands, the Fortalezas, the Cascaweens. It's a little bit more vegetal, a little bit more minerality.
Definitely. Yeah, and you'll notice too in the Highlands, the dirt, you're absolutely right on that, by the way. The dirt in the Highlands is more red. There's more iron content in the dirt in the Highlands, I believe. And then the dirt is more of maybe stuff we'll see in higher elevations here in the United States is what the color is down there in the valley. But yeah.
And this is all because of, in all reality, because of a volcano from that side of the world where the soil has been impacted from centuries ago. Volcanic eruption.
Yeah, that's the name of the volcano is Tequila, and that's where the name of the town came from is Tequila. So that's why we have the drink.
Right.
Just like champagne is called champagne because it's from Champagne. Tequila's Tequila because it's from the town of Tequila or the region of Tequila.
And if I'm not mistaken, when we were in Tequila, somebody told us that tequila kind of loosely translated from ancient Indian language of the rock that cuts your feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we did. Somebody did tell us that.
Volcanic glass.
The volcanic rock that you walk on and cuts your feet.
We were probably 49 drinks into it when they told us.
And I said, I think it translates to bad college experience.
It could be both.
Tommy, we almost named this podcast Bad College Experience. Have you ever had a bad college experience with tequila?
Yeah, I've swore off tequila because of bad college experiences with tequila. I have scars on my hands from bad college experiences.
That's OG right there.
What brought you back?
To be honest with you, I wanted to be a baller, so I started drinking some tall bottle brands and thought I was cool. And I actually liked it when it came back. I'm like, man, this is nice. It's really sweet. It's really smooth. And then I realized, thankfully, a few years ago, someone made me a Oaxacan Old Fashioned with some good stuff in it. And I'm like, oh, this is different. That's some really good, potent stuff. And they're like, here, try it neat. And it just happened to be made with Fortaleza at the time. I'm like, wow, this is way different than the stuff I like. And I like this more. And then the rest is history.
I like this more.
And so the tall bottle aspect that got you back into it.
Yep.
That was basically because you were here in Las Vegas, correct?
Well, yeah, I just happened to be here, but I think it would have been anywhere. But yeah, it's mainly because I wanted to be a baller. I wanted that flex, as you guys have talked about, in the past. And I'll just name them. Don Julio, 1942. I popped out like crazy, thinking, let me get this $20 shot of, which is cheap now. Let me get this $20 shot of Don Julio, 1942, or let me try this pretty bottle that looks like it should be made into a lamp of Clase Azul, and we drink that, and I did like it. I'll be honest, I liked it. And then I was introduced to some stuff that I love now. So,
which was made out of just agave, yeast, and
Water.
water.
And time.
But I was the same way. I started off. Matt got me my first bottle of Terramana, and I liked it. And then I got some stuff that I loved. You know what I'm saying? So it's.
I remember
the same way.
for me, I went to college in Reno, and one day I wanted to get as far away from my family but keep in-state tuition as possible. So Reno,
well played.
There was no Oahe University, or Jackpot College. Yeah. So, anyways, we were in Reno, and we were going to drive to Carson City, which is about a 30-minute drive from the Reno area, from the UNR college campus. And it was their senior night in Carson City. It was their senior prom. We were freshmen at UNR, so we thought our shit didn't stink. We were the big ballers. And on the way to Carson City, we stopped at this liquor store, and using my very fake ID, I bought this bottle of Cuervo. And I thought, that's decent quality tequila. And the next day, almost hospitalized with a broken blood vessel from throwing up so hard in my eye, I realized that tequila was I thought tequila was the enemy. And I probably should have gone to the hospital. In all reality, I think I drank almost the entire bottle in about 25, 30 minutes, trying to impress the senior girls.
What you should have realized is college kids shouldn't be trying to get high school girls drunk.
Well, yeah, that's fine. There's a fine line.
That's what I realized from this story.
17 and 18.
Yes. Oh, it's a fine line.
Yeah. So I walked away completely from it, and then I worked for a structural and civil engineering company here in Las Vegas, responsible for building in the 90s all of the major casinos that were built: the Mirage, the Treasure Island, the Excalibur, the Luxor, all those that 90s boom of Las Vegas casino.
1993, yeah.
Yeah, so I worked for them, and I was we were family friends, and they had this little closet of liquor for the parties that they would have. And I opened it up one day, and I was getting something, and I noticed all these liquors, and I saw a bottle of Patron. And this is 90s Patron. This is like the original Patron, the Siete Legos family. And I remember so I stole that bottle. I stole this almost full bottle of Patron tequila because it had a wooden cork. It was in a kind of a fancy bottle. And I had thought, well, this is like some quality shit. I'm a classy guy. I'll smoke a cigar. I'll sip some tequila. Yep. And that was the first experience I had of, I guess, what you would call premium tequila.
At the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was. And so shout out. Yeah. And so I got to say, in college in Reno, I snuck it back. I stuck it in my truck, drove it back up to college. And I wasn't one to drink every night. And here and there I'd have a sip, and then I drank that bottle, and I thought, I really like tequila. Even though I had this really bad college experience with that bottle of Cuervo, which again, that's Cuervo. If you're drinking Cuervo, that's a mixed dough. That's not even 100% blue rubber agave. It's chock full of additives. It's chock full of coloring. It is garbage tequila. Yep. But at the day, I thought, well, I really do like tequila. And so that was kind of the roots were kind of maybe planted in the mid to late 90s with that bottle of Patron, which now, is frontline everyday Patron, additive free. Maybe, I don't know. It's if worst case scenario, I go out to a bar like this last weekend in downtown Summerlin, nobody had anything quality of additive free quality. And I thought, okay, a Patron and club soda, fine, I'll do that. The big tall bottles that Patron's now making, 100% has additives in it, 100% designed to compete with the girls and sparklers in the Las Vegas nightclubs.
The Patron Alto.
Yeah. Yeah, you finish the sentence for me. the Alto. Oh, it's so smooth. Yeah, that's because it's got vanilla and glycerin and additives in it.
Yep.
So for a new person getting into tequila, what expression should those individuals try getting into tequila, and what brands would you recommend? As far as what brands do you think that they would like, as far as going the sipping route?
So if they're come from a whiskey background, I would suggest starting with a añejo or a repo. I think a repo for most whiskey drinkers would be fine. If you can get it, which nowadays you can't, but it's the one that got me into the game, was Fortaleza Reposado. But I mean, there's so many other repos that would work for somebody who likes whiskey. Anything from El Tesoro's repo, Ocho repo, G4 has a repo that's highly sought after. Cascaween has a repo. That's where I would go with a whiskey drinker. Now, if you're like a clear spirits drinker, I would maybe still start with repo, but you could probably get them down into blancos, and the G4,
Yeah.
the Cascaween. Ocho is a great Blanco to get people going on. I think one of the easier drinking Blancos to get people crossed over into tequila is Lalo, which is now available in the Las Vegas Valley. And our Lalo just happens to be made by Don Julio's grandson. So,
Yeah, Lalo's really good. I was in Tampa and they had Lalo, and I had a couple glasses. It was phenomenal.
yeah.
I also recommend people, I tell people, look at Cimarron.
Mhm.
The price point is so good. It's I think it's still under $35. You get a full 1 liter bottle, not 750 milliliters, but a whole quarter more. The bang for the buck on a Cimarron, even the Reposado. I know you have this issue with Reposados. I'm
I don't have
determined.
issues. They're just nasty.
No,
Well,
I'm
they do have a
determined.
decent
I'm
Blanco as
determined.
well.
I'm determined to change your heart and minds on this
That's
Reposado.
cool. That's cool. If
So-
you could make it into something smoky, is that what you put in there?
So I put La Luna
Okay.
mezcal in your Paloma. So you again have this week another smoky Paloma, but also made with G4 this week. So
Good.
What La Luna?
he's the only one that can't drink it straight. So we have to do a cocktail for.
What La Luna mezcal do you use? Do you know the agave?
So it's the blue label.
So is it the Tequiliana?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's made with the same agave as tequila.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Which is a great way to get people into mezcal, is to go to that La Luna Tequiliana style of mezcal.
And I will tell you from my personal experience, I'm not huge into mezcals.
Yeah.
But once I tried that mezcal, like I was hands down, I'm like, this is a great mezcal. Like I've done a few cocktails with it.
Yep.
Hands down, I would do it again.
That's one I would suggest for tequila
So
to switch over to.
So Tommy, really quick, I want to ask you a crazy question. You go out with some guys. You're in Hakkasan. They order up. They say, Tommy, we're going to order up a bottle of tequila. The options are the usual suspects. What's the one that you might actually pick?
And this is very important, since I'm spending most of my time drinking out.
Yeah, and so the
I need to know
usual
something, yeah.
suspects are your Don Julio 1942, the Clase Azul, the Patron. What's it called? Alto. I think the Don Julio 70. I've seen out there. Casamigos. What's your like? Okay, I'm not mad at them. Ye of little faith, kind of like, okay, which one are you picking with the additives in it?
If I have to go with one, I'm probably just going with the 42, begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean.
Yeah, but a friend bought me the Don Julio 70, and it wasn't a bad mixer in a Texas ranch water.
Yeah. Yeah, it's.
At
I would
what
almost
point,
have to
Ash,
drink at
do
that
you
point.
say? Yeah, I was about to say. At what point, Ash, do you say, "I'll just have a beer"?
I'll tell you, this weekend, so the wife and I were out. We hit up, and I don't want to throw him under the bus, but we've mentioned him before. And you got any of it? I'm like looking. No. I'll just give me a Modelo. And then I go, let's drive over to the Mexican restaurant. What could possibly go wrong? Absolutely not. Oh, well, our new one is this one. I'm like, she's like, have you had it? I go, it's garbage. I'm not interested in it. And we just walked out. I just went and I went home and just said, I'll just crack a bottle of, one of my good ones. Not that I'm opening a Fortaleza necessarily, but like I have. I think I bought
50 bottles, Matt.
I bought a bottle of Terralta. I went to
is a great tequila.
It's a G4. It's a G4 tequila. I bought the Reposado. I'm a Reposado guy. I tend to like Reposados. But yeah.
Do you ever mix at home, or do you always sip?
I do mix. I have been making a fizzy Paloma lately. I've been doing. So I go to the store. I go to Trader Joe's. I buy the grapefruit. I buy the limes. I've got some agave syrup. I do a couple mixes of bitters. I do a Picades and a Anagostra bitters. I do a pinch of the Celtic salt. I do the agave syrup. I mix it all together. I squeeze half that lime. I do half of the grapefruit. I mix it all together, kind of in a cup, and then I strain it through a very fine strainer, get all the pulp out, and then I'll chop it with ice and just hit it with a little bit of Topo Chico or a Spindrift. Fucking phenomenal. I had 4 of them in one night, and I'm like, all right, lights out. Here we go.
So what's in this, Matt?
So La Luna Mezcal. You also have G4 Blanco.
Okay.
You have a pinch of Celtic salt, and you also have the Fever Tree grapefruit.
What makes Celtic salt the ingredients you guys both go to on this?
So everything that I've done research on, it has multiple variations of magnesium.
Yep.
And it absorbs into your body a lot faster with the magnesium. So if you are magnesium deficient, or you take magnesium supplements, like it's also an addition to that. Like you can take a pinch and put it under.
Yeah, despite popular opinion, salt is not bad for you.
No.
It's what kind of salt you're putting in your body.
Mm-hmm.
The Himalayan pink salt, I've heard some people say there might be trace arsenic, trace bad things in it. So the Celtic salt, I think I bought it off of Amazon. And I'll do a little pinch of that. When you're mixing it with your poison of alcohol.
Yes.
It's so healthy.
I use it to cook with as well.
So here's my funny Tommy story. Met Tommy for the first time a couple Sundays ago.
Yep.
Obviously part of the Las Vegas Tequila Club. And I was a little early to the venue where we met. I walked in, and the bartender behind the bar there at the wine bar, John, shout out to John and the local out there at the district at Green Valley. And so I said, I'm looking around. I go, let me get the G4 Reposado. Neat. Can I get it in a champagne flute? And as soon as I said champagne flute, he says, oh, are you friends with Tommy? And I said, not yet, but he's on his way.
That's not good, Tommy. That's not good.
I got a reputation.
That's not good.
I love to drink out of my whiskey cairn, but I do also have my champagne flute at home. And when I'm out, I'll request my, when we're at the fancy bar at the Park MGM, put in a champagne flute, please.
Yeah.
And that's
so. Tommy, what's your go-to mixer when you're not drinking it straight?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
What's your go-to mixer when you're not drinking it straight?
My go-to mixer is usually probably my favorite cocktail is Paloma, so I use the Fever Tree for sure. I'll use a squirt if I don't have anything else, but usually if I don't have Fever Tree, I don't have squirt either. And if I don't have that, I'll do a Batanga and I'll do a Coke. And if I don't do that,
I like your style.
Yeah.
Which Jay loved Batangas on one of our previous episodes. Perfect. So he's definitely in with you now.
This summer, Tommy, I'm gonna treat you to the best Paloma in the city this summer.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
It comes from Towel Beach.
Okay. I'll start
best
putting steps now.
Nah, it's too late, son.
No.
It's almost March.
Those
Just be
girls,
happy with yourself.
those girls at Tail Beach love a dad bod.
I'll wear a robe.
So
Yes.
it's funny. This weekend, Jay and I and the ladies were out, our women were out to a comedy show, and we go to a whiskey bar in the downtown. No, I'm sorry, town square. I won't say who. Very very unfortunate selection of tequila, but Jay orders a Batanga. And it was the funniest. The lady writes it down, and I'm like, I know she has no idea what we're talking about. I know she has no clue. She's just like, oh, okay, a Batanga. And I'm like, she's new. She's just being nice. She has no idea what the Batanga was. And sure enough, and I was going to say, like, it's just a Cuba Libre substitute rum with tequila.
Yep.
And she comes back about 3 minutes later, and she's like, I'm really sorry. What was that drink you ordered?
Yep.
I go, it's just a Coke with lime and tequila. And she, oh, okay. It was just a Cuba Libre substitute rum for tequila.
It's made it better.
It was awesome.
It's a good time.
So we also did an excursion this past Sunday where we started at Poncho's in downtown Summerlin. From Poncho's, we moved to.
Is Poncho's new?
No.
Mm.
So it's over by Trader Joe's in downtown Summerlin.
Good, because I've never been there either.
Usually they carry Fortaleza. This time they did not. So the choice of tequila I did was the Don Abraham Reposado.
Got it.
From there we went to El Dorado Cantina in Tivoli Village. Where
We've all been there, haven't we?
Yes.
Yes, we have.
That's where we actually met to discuss the first
There you go. I remember.
integration of the podcast.
Yes.
And there I had the Siete Leguas Blanco. They also brought me the Reposado because the other choices that I wanted, they were like, oh, we're out. But we brought you this one instead. I said, no, I'll take the Blanco. And so had that one and the Reposado. From there we went to La Mona Rosa downtown, which is the Mexican.
Yes.
Yes,
The one with the
that's-
swing.
Yes.
Yes.
So they actually have a very decent
Yes.
selection.
I actually took pictures there one night and sent them to you. Too.
Yes.
Yes.
So they have a very decent selection of additive-free. I was drinking the Tequila Ocho Blanco, or the Plata. And then from there, we went to the Container Park, went to Oak and Ivy, which, as a bourbon whiskey bar, you would not expect them to have a good tequila selection. Mind you, there was at least 5 or 6 great additive-free tequilas. When I mentioned additive-free to the bartender, he smiled and he was like, mm-hmm.
Is there an upstairs at Oak and Ivy? Or is that just one of the containers downstairs?
So it's one of the containers
It
downstairs.
doesn't have an upstairs patio?
No, closer to the stage.
Yep.
And they had 3 different expressions of Fortaleza. They had Tapatio. They had a couple others. And then from there, we went to Lucky Day, which
Oh, yes.
Lucky Day also has a couple good.
Have you been there yet?
Nope. I was in Florida for this whole experience.
Oh, yeah.
And then after Lucky Day, believe it or not, so we'd been at the local the day after we met Tommy, and Gary, who is a barback at Corduroy. We got to talking with him. He mentioned that we should come to Corduroy because they have Fortaleza.
Where's
They have
Corduroy?
So it's basically right across the street from Lucky Day.
Roger.
Downtown.
Got it.
All right there. So we went there, and during our visit, we had Fortaleza. They also have a few other additive-free brands as well, but I was drinking Fortaleza Still Strength, and the Palomas were
Oh, I bet.
good.
Oh, I bet. I absolutely.
I was very impressed with the picture you sent from Oak and Ivy.
Yeah,
Right.
so was I.
So shout out
So
Oak
was
and
I.
Ivy, downtown Las Vegas, Container Park.
I like Container
The
Park.
first time I
do too.
ever went to Container Park, if you've never been to Las Vegas or if you've only come here to visit, there is a giant mantis, a structure, a sculpture, a metal mantis in front of Container Park. It has these antennae that go out and they shoot fire. Antennae? Anyways, they shoot fire out. And when I was a cop on the job, I was a counterterrorism, I think I was a detective at the time, I hadn't even promoted. They're like, hey, this new thing's opening downtown, grand opening. We need you down there to do, profiling of crazy people and potential terrorism. So me and my partner go down there. We're dressed, we're undercover, plain clothes, and we're standing there. And the antennae blast off. It shoots it's like a gas fired.
It's hot as shit. You can feel it from
flame.
2 streets over.
It shoots a flame 17,000 feet into the air.
Yep.
I think it hits the Starlink that Elon Musk launched. And I'm standing in front. Those things, this is 10 years, 15 years ago now. Those things go off. And I thought, this is it. Al-Qaeda got me. And I thought a bomber had exploded himself in front of the Container Park. And, a little PTSD to this day, but that was one of those, I did not know that was going to happen. And,
and outside of the local, Tommy, before we let you out of here, what's your favorite spot to have a good one over there on the Henderson side, on my side of town? Outside of somewhere you can walk to.
So the local, of course, you just mentioned. There is a place that's newer to the Green Valley area called Cantina Tequila. It has with the name Tequila, I had a lot of expectations from them, and thankfully they did stock themselves a handful of additive-free tequilas. They have a handful, more than a handful of stuff that is not for me, but sells great for other people. So there's a lot of tequila there. And I do like the place. The place is fun. It's like a Mexican version of a tiki bar. In fact, it's decorated by the same person that decorated it. So that's
that
one.
Is very good. I took my brother there. Yeah.
What? Yeah, it's a fun place. And then right around the corner is A.K.A. So A.K.A. is an outstanding Mexican steakhouse.
Amazing.
And they have a little bit of a great additive-free tequila selection that I helped Dean, the owner, kind of curate for their back bar. So they have some good stuff there.
So after we met, we went there the following day before we went to the local to have dinner on your recommendation. We actually met Dean. Dean was amazing. I started talking, additive-free tequila to him and told him about the podcast and everything. He started following us and he's like, do you know Tommy? And I was like, that is the exact reason that we are here. And hands down, we'll be back because the food was amazing.
Yeah.
Dean was great. And to answer your question, it's closer to McDonald Ranch.
Oh, it's up the hill a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, give the name of it one more time just for our listeners.
It's I.
AYE?
AYAY.
Okay, I. Okay,
got it.
And then the local,
the
wine bar is known as the local in the district, Green Valley Ranch.
Yep.
And then there's another one, Tequila Cantina.
Cantina Tequila is what it's called.
Tequila. Okay.
I take my brother to
Whole Foods.
Tequila, and we're eating. So the selection's good. We're having a bite to eat, and I get fish tacos like normal. My brother orders these fajitas. He comes out, and it's a huge, just flew in from Maine lobster tail. I said, for a man with no job, you got the lobster? He said, no, it was only $18. Right? I said, oh, okay, $18. I said, that's a full size lobster. The bill comes, it's $54.
Yeah, he misread.
And he said, $54?
$18 per pound.
Exactly.
Your brother's like, gratuity. I didn't talk no gratuity.
Yeah, but the food the chips and salsa there were great. The selection was great. It's really nice. And it does have that same feel
a tiki bar, a Mexican tiki bar. I like that.
I think it was done, or is it owned or done? Tell me, by the people that do Skinny Fats.
Yeah, so it's own. So it used to be a Skinny Fats location, and then they partnered
Yep.
with Beer Zombies, the owner of Beer Zombies, Chris, and Chris curated the bar, and then they Skinny Fats did the restaurant. And like I said, the decorator of Golden Tiki fame here in Las Vegas is the same decorator of Cantina Tequila.
Dave Kelly's second home.
Mm-hmm.
So.
So Tommy, where is your spot in the Henderson area if you're going to go to a liquor store or a mom and pop booze shop? Where do you go buy your bottles from?
So here in Henderson, I get my bottles mainly from the Cask, and the Cask just happens to be walking distance from my house. And because of that, we had the fortunate relationship built between myself and the owner, Mark. Shout out to Mark out there at the Cask and his crew out there, and they are our partner for our events. So they're our retail partner for our events. So like for the G4 launch event, they're going to be providing bottles for purchase at the event, which is handy because people are going to need bottles to be signed by Felipe when they're out there. Because if you're going to have Felipe, you might as well get him sign a bottle. So the Cask is where I get most of my tequila in the Henderson area. There's also Corey's right down the street, which is a beer and wine store where you can also consume beer and wine at that location. Also, you can consume beer and wine at the Cask as well. And Corey's has a good selection of tequila. And then, of course, those are the only two places I go in Henderson for my.
Talk to me about the food trucks at Corey's too. You mentioned the food
trucks at Corey's, right? The best of the best food trucks are the ones that go to Corey's in their parking lot every night of the week, actually.
And that's the place I've been going myself, Corey's, lately.
Best pizza on Friday nights.
And again, shout out to Liquor Lineup if you're in the North Las Vegas, Northern Valley, and Decatur area. There's a couple. They have a 1 and a number 2. In my opinion, some of the best options for your additive-free tequila experience in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And the Top Shelf on Decatur as well also has a good selection of additive-free tequilas.
So Top Shelf is on Decatur, where off of the 215.
Yeah, so it's right there in the Walmart Plaza off the 215.
Okay.
All right. Well,
all right.
Thanks, Tommy.
Yeah,
yes,
Tommy,
thank
give us all of your social media. Give us all your plugs, please.
Yeah, so the Las Vegas Tequila Club social media is at Las Vegas Tequila. I left the club out just to make it easy, at Las Vegas Tequila. And my personal tequila site is at SinCityAgave. So check both out.
Nice. All right, brother.
We do appreciate you being on, and we do and will be a very big part in, the Las Vegas Tequila Club. Let us know what you need, and
awesome.
We'll help you out where we can.
Awesome, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here on this episode of Black Couch Casting. Tactical.
And we'll see you next weekend, man, down at the G4 event. Can't wait.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, I'm excited. All right,
guys. Brother. We'll see you.
Good night.
Have a good one.
All right,
everybody. Thanks for listening.
Okay.